Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. As always, the purpose is to support each other during these chaotic times. Yes, we are in the middle of a collective chaos, probably the biggest one in our lifetime, where there's risk of health, where there are diseases around, there's a risk of death, uh, there's risk of loss of jobs or even professions, the business that we do, the modes of survival. And amid all this, there's divisiveness too. So we're always, at least I'm always looking for rays of hope. And then I look for people who give me that hope. So Narayan is somebody I've looked up to, somebody I've learned from my college days. I'm talking about way back 1980 when we were still teenagers. And the way I got to know Narayan was because in engineering drawing, this guy used to do miracles and I used to struggle. So he would sit in front of me and I would copy everything he would do, isometric and perspective. And I literally used to struggle in those days. And I was like, oh my God, here's the God of engineering design. And that's how we all kind of learned from each other. It wasn't an easy environment at the Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay. So Narayan, tell me about you. How did you end up at IIT? What was your experience like? And then how has life moved on since then?
Yeah, thanks, Shankar, for calling me on this program. Yeah, I also, though I don't recollect exactly the episode you were talking of, but yeah, I was always, I thought, good and interested in sketching and drawing. So I guess that's probably helped me. It has nothing to do with my engineering prowess as much as the fact that I enjoyed sketching and drawing. Yeah, so coming back to your question on the IIT part, I guess I was groomed or I was, sort of instructed to get into some great college because.
So how
Yeah,
did life change? Many of us, including you and I, are no longer doing hardcore engineering. In
yeah,
fact, less than 10% of people who end up in engineering colleges continue to
yeah,
be real engineers. We
yeah,
become something else, whether it's
yeah,
managers or marketers or storytellers like me. So tell me
sure,
about
sure.
your journey in and out of engineering.
Yeah, in fact, I go through the dilemma. Though if you ask me 10 years back, 15 years back, I was in R&D for first 16 years of my career. So I had no business to say that I don't like engineering. So first 16 years of my career, I'm in hardcore R&D of an automobile company. And automobiles in the 80s was like niche. IT had to come in. So automobiles were supposed to be one of the big stuff to be working in the R&D of an automobile company. So the first 16 years, I always thought I was an engineering guy. But now I slowly realized that I was actually managing engineers. I was getting the best out of my engineer. And obviously, the language is more of engineering, but it had hardly much to do with engineering. There's, of course, hindsight. So if you ask me in 1989, 1994, I had some 25 people reporting to me, 10 sitting on the drafting board. The AutoCAD comes in. So you're using newer and newer tools where visualizing is becoming better. So I used to always joke the intelligence is moving from the drafting man to the drafting machine. Because you got more intelligent machines in front, but the bottleneck is a guy now sitting in front. So remember in 86, you had a drafting board where the man's idea had to convert to a drawing. Probably he was ideating for maybe 10% of the time, and 90% of the time he's drawing. Because many times I remember they used to draw and they had to rubber it out. In AutoCAD, it's exactly opposite. The machine is waiting for this guy to give the input. Because the moment he gives the input, it's done. So I was recollecting, can you believe it, Shankar? In the course of 15 years, I saw people losing their visual skills.
That's true. That's true.
They just lost it. So, I mean, they would not understand because they would understand why should I visualize when I can just rotate the mouse and see how a cylinder looks from the side and the top. So, I mean, he does not have to visualize a cylinder that is circle from here and rectangle from here.
Just like many of us cannot read maps now because we have
Yeah,
got Google
simple.
Maps or mapping technologies.
Yeah,
And many of us have forgotten how to add or multiply.
yeah.
Shakuntala Devi, the movie is out
Sure.
there, but many of us can't
Yeah.
compute more than single digit now.
Yeah. Precisely. That's right. Shakuntala Devi. That's a good example. Yeah. But what I realized is in 16 years, I was actually I was looking at engineers. Though all along I thought I was looking at engineering. So I was seeing how engineers are now, how they're processing information. how the man-machine interfaces. I'm in R&D. So we are developing a new bus because Mitsubishi had tied up with Eicher for trucks. They walked out of the collaboration in 91, 92 after 7 years. And you can imagine that's the time Japan's downhill trend began actually. Mitsubishi walking out of India. Pretty stupid of them. They didn't part with the drawings of any bus drawing. So you can imagine 1993, 8 years after my career, I mean, after my leaving IIT, I'm into hardcore R&D, creating some 2000 drawings. Zero input, no input. So it was great fun. But then I realized, so I was always having that arrogant feeling, I'm into hardcore engineering, but you can't make those 2000 drawings. You need inspired people who are ready to make mistakes and prepare the drawings, make the parts, put together the whole thing and make a bus, which is a 7 by 2 meter by 2 meter bus. So it was a different ball game altogether. But then I realized that I'm actually doing the outside in thinking more. Because as a head of the bus engineering, you're talking to the marketing guy. What does he want? And he will talk mostly non-technical things. He'll talking more of the packaging, how the bus aesthetics are, how the functionality or the ease of getting in, getting out. So he used to talk of everything except engineering. So I was sort of deciphering the engineering for him. But I hardly realized that I'm actually doing the non-engineering part of it. I'm doing the outside in thinking on his behalf. So I don't know. So I sometimes feel that was I doing engineering all these years? Yes and no. It was hinged around engineering, but I was dealing with people and I was enabling to communicate people. In fact, the joke is when I took to coaching 7 years back, most of my old friends said, "Ye to aap sir hamesha se karta tha. You're always doing this. You always inspired us by the way you said." I thought I inspired you by what I said. No, not what you said. The way you used to say it was very compelling argument and compelling discussion that you made us think. So I think that captures in a moment that I was talking engineering, but my way of talking inspired people.
So tell me more about your work now. What do you do really? Like many of us who stopped doing real hardcore engineering and doing many other things. And many of us get blamed for like, why did you waste an engineering seat if you didn't want to be an engineer?
Yeah. Sure.
Where do you see your career and what, I know you're up to something really cool now.
Yeah.
Tell us about
cool is
it.
the word. That's right. Cool is the word. So I'll put it in very simple words. 16 years I'm in R&D. 10 years I'm in marketing and in the same business of automobiles. So the industry is not changed. And as I told you that inside out, suddenly I see that the guys on the other side, so when in marketing, you think the other guys are duds. They don't know what the market wants. And when I was 16 years in R&D, I looked at the marketing guys and said, these are duds. They don't know how tough it's to make a vehicle which finally sells. And it's because of us, what you make sells. But fortunately, I was a part of this, you know, the Scorpio vehicle, right, which Mahindra launched. So there was a very famous SUV vehicle which was launched. And I was a part of the launch team where actually I was the engineering in that team. And we were a part of the product launch team. And I was pretty ashamed of the product because it had a lot of problems. And I was the only engineer. So I could exactly quantumize each of the problems, like the vibrations were more, noise levels were more, blah, blah, blah. But I remember the marketing guy telling us how to leverage this. So can you believe it, Shankar? I'm an engineering and someone is saying it's a very vibrating vehicle, right? Why can't we call it off-roader? Shouldn't a vehicle which is rough and tough, obviously will be a little vibrating, right? So that's when I saw that, yes, he's talking sense. And that's when I realized that engineering is not just knowing the material or knowing the hardcore brass tacks, as you would like to mean. How you communicate is as much about engineering as engineering is. You can't be a slave of your knowledge. But unfortunately, most engineers, and when engineers say that you're doing something else, they believe when you're not telling the truth, what about the engineering thing is, you're no more an engineer. So I was the first time I translated from the engineering, I said, yes, it's vibrating more. But this guy is saying, why can't we tell the customer it's a very rough and tough vehicle which can take a lot of bullshit roads? Yeah. So imagine you're on a part of a product launch team and I'm the only engineer, and I'm slowly getting to terms with the fact that, yes, how I market the idea is as important. So I remember that's the day I coined this word that what is good does not sell, but what is sell is good. What sells is good. So, somewhere that's the engineer's ego of diluting the thing, that it's not that what I make good sells, but what actually sells is good, obviously. So that's where I realized that it's not the engineering, it's not the information, it's not knowledge, it's finally people. So somewhere that's the day I realized it's not the knowledge, it's neither the information. Because finally it's knowledge, information which flows out through products, gets monetized and comes back. It is the people who make this happen, who is making all the difference. So after 18 years and probably 2 years in marketing, I realized it's not just the what and the how, which is what engineers deal with. What to do, how to do it, and all that. But then who is doing it and why does he do? Why does he do or why does he say what he's saying? So that's when I transcended the man. Because how can it be that marketing guy says that R&D guys are cool dudes who just think what they say is they're a blessing to mankind? The marketing guy says these guys are smart guys, they hoodwink people and get things sold, and they think the company will not survive without them. So both have mutual distrust and a mutual mocking at each other. But honestly, both are doing their job to the best of the ability. And if someone can transcend and understand why he does, you crack the code. So that's when I suddenly realized that yes, it's the person who enlivens the idea and who translates in information and finally monetize it. So that's when I said that I'm moving out. So that by the time I put in 5 years and 8 years in marketing, 16 years. So 24 years I was done. And then suddenly, so then you're getting into something called as HR domain, people. I could get away talking because I had at a senior level where people were involved. But then, you didn't have the background to say you're an HR guy. So that's when I realized, and fortunately, I got a last 4-year break of getting into setting up an R&D training center in Mahindra. So they accommodated me there. And that was also along with my health challenge. So it suited me. So it was a win-win situation. It was great fun. That's when I realized, when I started on that 4-year period, which is my last 4 years in corporate life, I said that's the sweet spot where technology and marketing is interfacing, and it's a common thing called people.
Wow.
So that's all. So
I like the simplicity with which you described that. There's technology, there's marketing, but what really connects everybody is people.
It's people. People, yes.
Yeah.
It's all people. It's all, yeah. Yeah. So I suddenly realized that I connect well with people. While I always, in fact, my childhood, I always was told that I was one of those reticent guys who really didn't mingle with people. So, you have a lot of beliefs about what you think you are. So I'm that logical guy, which was obviously proven wrong in IIT because I was a very good, I didn't warm up to people quickly, but once I'm a good friend, I could be very disarming and I was ready to be vulnerable. Even now I like to crack jokes and I do a lot of wordplay. So I was there, it was there in me, and I used it to leverage it very well in all these testing times. So it was great fun. But the moment I said it's people only, subject is more an excuse to connect with people. That's what happened the last 4 years of my corporate life. So the 28 years in corporate life, the last 4 years of wow. Because imagine you are talking, you're taking a testing, you're taking a training on hardcore technical thing, and you're looking at more how the guy is learning it. Why is he learning it that way? How come he's understanding more than what I understood? So honestly, the humbling thing was the teacher was learning more. So I used to always joke, I don't know about whether you guys learned, but this session I learned how not to teach. Or I really got one more thing clear. So it's amazing. I would not have been able to say that, but for this insight. So that's when I realized, yes, I am made for taking care of people. And I think I went one step below. So I was more getting into personality. So that's when I realized even training is not it's not my forte. I will not use the word forte, but it's not something which I love doing. And I don't know, Shankar, but you must have heard this. That's when I realized first time in my life, what you're good at doing and what you love to do just need not have anything in common. So that was a great realization which happened during those training sessions, that I am good at training. People used to always admire me. But that's not what I love to do. If I could make a man hungry to learn, I think I had achieved it. Now, whether I was bad in imparting the learning, I was still ready to live with it. So my training sessions were peppered more with telling myself, I don't know, can you tell me? So most of my training sessions where one guy would be leading the training and I was facilitating. Something like what you're doing now, you're making me talk. I could do that in training sessions. And I was ready to be vulnerable, saying, this guy is the most knowledgeable in the room. Let's make the potential energy equal. So first of all, that guy is a fellow guy. So, it was brilliant because fellow people used to think, oh man, this guy knows and he's being allowed to teach. So I better understand. So the pressure to learn from peers. And the guy who is teaching is feeling very, very charged that boss thinks that I can learn. And I was heading the customer care training division. So this is where I've dealt with dealer owners, dealership owners. I've dealt with right up to, and I trained some 10,000 drivers of trucks, motivating them how to earn more money. So it was like across trades, across degrees, but finally I saw human beings. So the hang up of you're from IIT Bombay and you deal with some IQ level people, it just vanished in thin air. And honestly, I realized I'm enjoying this, which was the most important thing. It took 24 years for me to realize that.
You know, if you remind me so much, it's a humbling experience when we realize that so-called IQ or mathematical, logical abilities are a very tiny portion of life. Life is really about understanding each other, respecting each other, being humble, being able to communicate. Even today, if Amitabh falls sick, more people will feel the pain rather than if a scientist, because Amitabh is right there. I mean, whether it's Sholay or it's Diva or it's a small guest appearance, he connects, relates to people. If Amit Shah or any political leader, his constituency feels the pain. So because there's that human connection. So tell me more about what you do now. What you do now is fascinating to me. And there's some similarity between what you do and what I do. That's why it's fascinating.
Sure. Yeah, it was fun. So that's when I told you. So what I'm talking of is exactly 24 years are through, and we are from, after 2000, from 1985, you're now in 2009 and 2008, and you're knowing very clearly this is not what this is not what I'm meant to be born, and you get into some existential question. Though everyone around me was amazed because with my challenge, the health challenge, I better be working. I need not be taking any more safety. And the last home run of 10 years is supposed to be, especially in a manufacturing setup. The last home run is like where you're privileged and you make more money. So it was the last thing to do is what I did. But then somewhere I said, if I don't unshackle myself, it'll be like a case of missed opportunities. So I always joked, the famous example we say, so old age, or as you'll go in later in life, you have more of money, you got more of time, but you don't have the health to use both of them.
Very true.
So I somewhere said, So somewhere I said, fortunately, my health is good. I'm still in good health, but time I don't have because of this routine. So I said, let me earn more time and let me learn to spend time rather than spending money and earning money.
Wow.
So that was where, so I changed the parameter.
And coincidentally, we met around that time when you and I both transitioned out of engineering, marketing, corporate into, I don't know even how to define it, but in my case, I call it creative leadership and dance, and you call it something else.
So that's it. So I became time rich. That's all I would use the word. I became very time rich. And so when people ask me what do you do, I said precisely nothing. I decide to do every day what I'll do. But then, if I had to put an umbrella to it, I call myself career transition, because I really believe, and that's what I got my coach certified as. So honestly, the last 7 years, out of which 5 years, I've done maximum learning. I don't think I've learned so much in IIT as much I've learned in the last 5 years. And it's just to give you a clue of what all I've learned. And I think it should be appealing. I've learned right from Sanskrit. I've done some 7 or 8 online courses across Sanskrit, a lot of spiritual leading, a lot of history, a lot of philosophy, and can you believe it? I have taken part in some 4-5 plays, Marathi plays. 2 of them was professionally taken up. Well, I did a couple of half marathons.
I need to know this. Of course, I've done half marathons too. But what's the best place to learn Sanskrit today? And a lot of us have time during the pandemic.
Yes. And that's when you know what is known as the science of language. So suddenly you see unity of language. I mean, imagine, sorry to diverge into Sanskrit, but Sanskrit is the way that consonant table is. It's like a periodic table of chemistry.
It is like a periodic table. In fact, we never explored this. This is the first time we are talking. I love languages. And the way I understand new languages, I learned Espanol in the last 3 months. And the way I learned it is through what's called cognates, the common words. So it is widely believed that English and Spanish have common Latin roots, and therefore there are about 5,000 words in common. But imagine my delight when I found out that in addition to those 5,000 words that are common, Spanish and Arabic have another 4,000 with some overlap, roots in common,
Sure.
words in common. And guess
Sure.
what? We have many thousands of words common with Arabic from
Yes.
the Hindi Urdu branch.
Yeah.
And we also, Indian languages, through the Latino connection with the Germanic connection also.
Yeah.
So I think in like 3 months, I was able to pick up 8,000 words just
Wow.
by
Wow.
learning
That's
the
great.
connection
That's
between basic things like, you know,
Sure.
and like como estas. Estas is
Yeah.
related to asto. Asto,
Oh,
asato, asato ma sadgamaya.
Okay.
There are
Okay,
so
great.
many common related. Como estas
Yeah.
is how are you? Asto, casa astos. In Marathi,
Kasastos. Yeah,
literally.
okay. Yeah,
And there
that's
are
it. That's it.
literally thousands of words like that come
Yeah.
from the Latin Sanskrit connection as well as from the Arabic, the
Yeah.
Spanish Arabic Urdu connection to Hindi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
delight to be able to, you know,
It's
swim in this ocean.
Yeah,
So
it's a
tell
different
us
world
more,
altogether.
how can we learn more about language? Because to me, it's a big thing. And this came as a surprise to me that we had this common interest.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think the moment, see, because as they say, thought, when communicated, needs a language. After all, programming is also languages, right? I mean, somewhere people forget it. PL, program, it's all languages. But the point is, unfortunately, languages become very cryptic and people don't understand. So, but when like when Sanskrit, when you just see, these days, and as I told you with my, let me just share that here. You know, when you have memory challenges, the best thing is to give meanings to the names you have to remember. So like in your case, both of us got names, but imagine if there is someone called Alankar, you just have to remember this is something to do with nice way of organizing things. Next time you see that man, you'll never struggle for the word. So that's communication. You just suddenly, because you see a cognitive thing coming in, this is Shubha or this is Padmaja, you know, born out of lotus. So suddenly there's no problem in remembering because the communication with the language is very different. You relate it to the language very differently. It's a proper noun. It's a nominalization of a normal verb. It's a simple nominalization. So good you told me the example there. So languages, another thing is cross languages and nominalization. So English is a pretty lousy language with due apologies. It's the least scientific because in Sanskrit, I'm sure in many places, every sound has an alphabet.
Every sound has a meaning also.
That's one. But first is there's no lippy problem. There's every sound which a mouth can make it's a this thing. Yeah. One.
Same in,
and second
same in German, same in Spanish.
I guess,
they're very strongly typed phonetic languages.
Absolutely. One is that. And second is in Sanskrit, the way the etymology is, you give me an idea, I give a word for you. Love of God and love for God as two different words. So it's brilliant. And why this helps is because, first of all, it starts, you know, when we are to the emotional part, when you have to relate to people, these become very important. Languages, the left brain to right brain connection. Languages are left brain things, but I can emote with a language.
True.
So according to me, languages, the one which connects the both sides of the brain. Now that's
corpus
really
callosum. Corpus callosum.
That's
the
corpus
connection
callosum. So what they say is
the left and the right.
So I think all guys who are hitting their 40s better learn one more language because this connects new connections. Same thing.
Very true. Very true.
In my own field, career navigation. Yeah, in career navigation, I'll give you two examples. I do a lot of courses for entrepreneurs, you know, where I'm helping them navigate into entrepreneurship. You know, entrepreneur is related to a word called entrepreneur.
Yes.
From Latin.
And it's also related to antarprerana in Sanskrit. It is so amazing.
So now imagine suddenly, amazing. And then after that, you don't have to tell what you have to be for an entrepreneur. I mean, it's not a businessman. If you don't have an inner inspiration, not an external motivation, you need an inner inspiration. Which is totally different from external motivation. It can be a, you know, icing on the cake, but it can't be the cake. You better have the inner inspiration. And second is navigation and navgati, career navigation.
Yes.
So navigation needs the pole star. You can't have a compass in your hand where the dial is already rotated and you don't know you're not. You need something which is, you know, something which is detached from your worldly things. So your pole star. So that's why I use the word navgati, navigation. How come it's so similar?
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful way to connect navigation and navgati.
Navgati, that's right, navgati.
Antarprerana, there are so many of them.
Yes, so many of them. So now the moment you communicate this, I've done workshops, the moment you say that, you can just see a stunned silence, the idea just sinks in. Even the most engineer of engineers sitting there who has never thought about it, he knows that, okay, logically what he's saying is right, but I got it. I got it. So I think these are where learnings are. So what I realize is when you learn with a striking emotion, you'll never forget it.
Very true. Very true.
Like your ability to remember me is because of that.
Yes.
You were delighted that day when you saw me drawing. So that emotional delight is what remembers you. Yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah, the emotional tagging. This is where, as you exactly said, there is the cerebral thing going on with the language and the understanding of the concept. And there is the human touch, whether it's the emotion or the person in front of me. You know,
absolutely.
Like namaste, very simple. I'll give you similar words because since you are both interested in languages.
Yes.
Salam, shalom, shanti. All have show in common. Shanti, assalamu alaikum, shalom, silence, shh. It all comes from shh. Let me see. I can hear something. Shh. And it's so interesting that almost all languages have that sound. Shh. And we don't have to explain it. It's onomatopoeic because we catch on the emotion.
Yeah. Simple. So that's what the sound connects. I think the sound connects to the feeling even before the meaning is understood. So
yes, that's how children learn. Children first learn the first few words, mama, 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 like something that connects with completion, like like hunger, like the
hunger,
opening.
Yes,
so
yes. So feeling more feeling.
And also even almost it's like there's an instinct. I need something. So like my need.
That's the and the first sound. You just have to open your mouth. That's all. Makes a noise. So talking about languages like the word amazing, mother, ma, matre. The whole world, mother is with the first sound because that's the first noise a kid can make. Ma. The pa needs a little more effort. And that's why padre, father. The pa is a little more difficult than ma. Amma. So imagine mother is all the way ma and the father is all the way pa, fa, kind of a thing. It's fa or pa.
Universal, almost universal because of course humans originated in one place and then diversified. But also these feelings are very innate from the time we are born. From the time when we are born, we have these desires to connect and the desire to be able to express.
Absolutely. So I remember imagine we are talking simple words. Imagine if I can communicate words, full words with that feeling. It's like it just strikes home. So I do what is known as this large-scale interactive process program where strategic change, 300 people in a room.
Wow.
So for Birla, I did 2 of them. So this is like a 2-day process where we are trying to get people to think, align on one direction. So I give this example there about studying and learning. It's fun to see how people sink it in quickly. So I said, let's study something. And I think Baiju's app talks about the Pythagoras theorem, which taught visually and how it's learned cognitively. So we all know cognitively a squared plus b squared is c squared. The moment you show the geometry of what it means, you can see literally a gasp in the classroom. Oh my God, why didn't these guys teach me? But now they know why a squared plus b squared is c squared. So that kind of a learning, how the algebra behind the geometry, suddenly it looks like, wow, it's just like knife through butter. Even the most dumbest guy is able to make out.
Even the triangles and the squares around them and how they connect.
So it's like so that's when I realized the language is of course sounds, but the visual. So the visual learning, all this unfortunately is not taught. And then I used to talk about the studying versus learning. So all of them study against a curriculum. So I said, you guys, we all had a curriculum till 21. And we were paying to learn. After 21, there's no more curriculum because you have to choose what you want to learn. And that's what we have not learned all the 21 years. What do I want to learn? So the famous quote, right? The life is a strange teacher. It gives the exams first and the lessons later. So that happens.
and you ask the right questions. Often we are obsessed with what and how rather than why am I studying and who am I going to work with and who am I?
Yeah, precisely.
So how
That's
did you
so.
get to these fundamental questions? At what point in your life did these questions arise in you? And how has it changed
Yeah,
your way of thinking about these things?
yeah. So this inward thinking happened, and as I told you, I had a major surgery which happened almost 10 years, 12 years back. So I was at that time at the age of 45. So that was a health challenge we went on. But that, according to me, I don't look at it more like a health challenge. It's more like a pause in your life. It's just someone making you think. So when you have such events in your life, it could be some major issue in the house, or it could be something in office. But sometimes you get those zero times, So you're just sitting doing nothing. And that's when I said, all this is happening. There must be some reason why it's happening. It can't be just random. So that's the first thing which came in. And I got into some spiritual reading, which was honestly not the religious part of it, but it's more like inward looking. Suddenly you're looking at the question which you asked, existential question, who you are, why you do what you do. The first time I asked that question, it was great fun. And then the questions like what you just now said came. Why did I do IIT? Honestly, if you speak to anyone at my age, the same question, why do you join IIT? He can probably give you a very impressive record as to how he worked up for it and how he's so privileged and therefore how his life was made. He doesn't know the why, he knows the what. Well, I am able to very openly tell you the why simply because I had the privilege of thinking through it. Then when I realized that myself, I didn't know because I had transitioned through 4 departments. I worked in R&D, then went into marketing, then went into training, and finally customer care. And then I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. So when you see all around, you just see it's not the department. It's how you look at the department which shapes you. So when I started digging deeper, that's when I realized you really start knowing your true beliefs and values. You come to know the deeper why. And I realized that the moment I did that, my clarity to get out was very, very clear. Because that's what suited me. And I said, I must impart this knowledge to as many more people. How can I help? And fine, people give various words like midlife crisis, but I think midlife is now becoming quarter life. There are more people in crisis at the age of 25s and 30s because probably their expectations are more, or probably they're coming from privileged backgrounds, unlike us. So they have achieved faster what you and me achieved by the age of 40. I guess they're already achieved by 30. So they're getting bored out faster. So I see a lot of 35-year-olds who's almost telling me that I am a blessing to mankind, but I have not been utilized well. My
And
talent is not good.
I hear that more in the times of pandemic now, because no matter what the
Yes.
age,
Yeah.
it's an existential crisis.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, I
Absolutely.
found out that one of my best friend's father was sent to ICU. And
Yeah.
in a moment, there's a shift in consciousness. Suddenly,
That's what.
there's a realization, oh my God. And I had been warning him, boss, let go of the tussle and the ego. And he was like, Shankar Dada, that's gone now.
Yeah.
Because
That's
suddenly
right.
it just hits us.
Yeah.
And it hit you 12 years ago with the
Yeah. Yeah.
potential risk of the
Whatever.
surgery was pretty deep rooted, and it
Yes.
could change your
Yes.
life, which it did in some
Yeah.
ways.
And it did for the good. So I'm eternally thankful for that happening.
So tell
So
us
for me,
about
it was.
that. In what ways did it help you to grow? I mean, I know you changed your career, but in what ways did it change you? Because right now, millions of people around the world are concerned about the pandemic and the
Yeah.
curse that it is. Curse, as
Mm.
in, oh my God, loss of life, loss of disease, loss of money, loss of work, and loss of dignity, even, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what are the learnings that you had in your crisis?
Yeah. So in my crisis, what you learn, and honestly, these advices we keep hearing, but we care a damn. Like what they say, please focus on your effort. The outcome is not in your control. It is to almost look like a weak guy saying, "Ki basically be a donkey and work and be thankful with what you get." Is what you distort the whole message as, because we are all supposed to be self-made people and coming up. So when that challenge hit me in 19 sorry at the age of 45, it really got crystallized. I was just wondering, what have I done? So suddenly the focus came into what have I been doing, what is that I've been giving, rather than only on the getting part. Because when I started counting my blessings, I realized there were so many things I got which I didn't deserve, because of which I made it to IIT, because of which I did. Because honestly, we have all won the lottery of life. We were born into a good family. We were born into a family which people took care of us. There are many people. So imagine to tell Sachin Tendulkar is the best batsman in India is a wrong thing. There are many Sachin Tendulkar who didn't get a bat to own or to hit because the guy was learning to live life. So we don't realize that we were blessed. So, you start counting your blessings. You suddenly feel very humble. And you realize that you're not given more than what you got. You have been asking for more. You believe your value is your reputation and not your identity. The person who got more is the richer man. I thought the rich man gives more, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It's not how much I acquire, but how much I share. In fact, the word Khandan, speaking of etymology, Khandan is about khata kya hai or daan kaise hota hai. So it's about receiving, but also sharing. The sharing part is at least equally important.
If not, precisely. Are you a leech on society? I mean, precisely, that's the point. So when you ask these questions, I can tell you, you can't fool yourself. You very clearly know, man, you have been a privileged guy. You have been utilizing society. And normally the guys who are relying on getting from society are the biggest criminals. Because they believe they are entitled to it. Can't blame them. I have real sympathy for them. So I believe, when I realized, I also said, what am I cribbing for? It was just a matter of realization. It was not a matter of, it's not a matter of ego or something. It's just a matter of realizing, yes, hello, let me check. So when that clock tick, that realization, if I can use that word, is a very big word. But my self-awareness came about that this is how I look at things. And that was a deja vu moment. And I then suddenly realized that, okay, let me now look at myself why I do. So everything was, that guy is looking, so, typical language was, that guy irritates me. The question I reframed was, how come or why do I get irritated by that guy? Now that's a more empowering way of asking the same question. Because the moment I say, why is that guy irritating me? It looks like the whole problem is outside. So basically from externalizing problems, you start becoming in charge of your things. And it's fun. I can tell you it's fun because you realize slowly how much you work hard to make life miserable for yourself. So I think Chinmaya Mission, I don't know whether you'll be knowing this, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Suffering is optional. Yeah, I also had my own existential crisis from the age of 38. And so eventually, after years and years of learning, I became a teacher also at Chinmaya Mission. And then the Sufis taught me how to dance. So I'm continuing kind of both. One foot in the understanding and going inwards, the other foot on going inwards while being in the world, while moving around with people. But again, all of this, there's no either or. There's learning in every part of life. Yoga and pranayama are being embraced literally around the world. I would not call them religious things as much as they are basic tools that can help us understand life. And that's how most people are taking them. They're not taking it as Hindu or one particular ideology. These are the basis of life. What was initially the intention of Sanatana Dharma, or understanding of the meaning and purpose of life. So, and there are so many things that the Sufis taught us how to move. The Urdu Shairi, the Shero Shairi, or the richness that we get from Kavalia. There's so many things.
Yeah, that's what, so, precisely. So the moment your mind is at peace and when you are very comfortable with who you are, you're not ashamed of what you are, you're not proud of what you are, then suddenly you see the whole potential is there. So you're ready to become what it needs to be becoming, what you need to become. Well, honestly, in the rat race, you're perpetually about what people think of me. The moment you're reputation driven, where the packaging takes away the whole thing. So your degree becomes more important. Honestly, Shankar, you'll agree with me, when both of us are respected for being IIT Bombay, they're actually respecting IIT Bombay.
This is the label, the brand, and that institution, not the individual.
It's the alma mater. They're just showing, okay, if these blokes have made it there, they must be intelligent. So it's reflected glory at the best.
It's like the brand of clothes that we wear.
Absolutely. So I'm not saying don't leverage it, but don't get fooled that, don't get fooled. That's about it. So use the brand.
The shirt is not me.
I'm
not Levi's. I'm not Nike.
That's right. In NLP, they say the map is not the territory.
Wow. The map is not the
territory. The map is not the territory. So when you're looking at the map, you're not the map is not the territory. So same story.
Yeah.
So it's fun. So what do you see? So the moment you let go of that thing, so according to me, all of us do it. In fact, I think the great leaders really do it. Honestly, when I see leadership now, the really great leaders practice this and they don't even know this because they have been like this. So when we say humble leader, if you go and tell an humble leader you're humble, you won't understand. You can't relate to it. So I remember these proverbs. I hope you have heard this proverb in humility.
Yeah, I know at least one world leader who says, "I'm the humblest on earth," and everybody laughs.
Yeah, that's right.
There's nobody who can beat me up being humble. Oh,
humble.
It's an oxymoron.
And so there's a very famous proverb. You know, the moment humility is a strange thing. The moment you think you have it, you lost it.
You lost it. And it's one of the most noblest one also.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
just
being it.
You cannot wear it as a badge or a brand.
Yeah, you can't. You know, in fact, that's why. So actually, great leaders, they don't. I mean, when they really look they chuckle and they almost feel. They blush when someone says that they're humble because he thinks that's what life is, right? I mean,
yeah.
So what's so great? What's so great? I mean, so he sometimes suspect that whether you're actually sort of trying to mollycoddle him or trying to give him a slight ego kick. Well, actually, the guy believes he's that. So when I realized this was spirituality, management, leadership, you suddenly see there's a unity of thought. It's all pretty similar, and language is the way we do it, and people share languages. So when you do that, you suddenly release, you just feel like a free soul doing what you're born to do, as very famous dialogue. But when you say born to do means what you love doing. So my real passion is if I can make people realize what they love to do and not get carried away by what they're good at doing. Because you'll agree with me, we both are known for our reputation, and normally reputation is built on what we are good at doing.
That's true. That's true. And in fact, there are many places where people don't even know me as an engineer. They think I'm a dancer and an amateur dancer at that, a clumsy dancer. And I'm very happy about it because I no longer have that burden of the brand, you know, because it's a big burden we carry sometimes.
It's a burden of success.
Yes. And in fact, you'll agree with me, at least one of the prime ministerial candidates in India was carrying that huge burden and still carries that big burden of four generations of, you know, at least three generations of success.
Sure.
And that's a shadow that many people suffer through.
Yeah.
So how do you help people get out of these things? What kind of work do you do that helps people get back to their heart?
That's where the career transition coach. Yeah. So the career get into in my company, which me and my partner, we developed it. So we are really getting people to connect with the human beings and not the badge or not the brand or the thing. So, you know, typically we all become a slave of what we have learned or what we have studied for. Well, that's just one more facet of you. So it's ajamo. So, I mean, the very word career is a carriage. It comes from a Latin word called cararia. So basically the professional is the carriage in which the person travels.
Wow. And
so, you know, career is the carriage.
In fact, if I may say so, I mean, this is kind of a leap, but the word karta, which is the subject, comes from karne, or what work we do. So again, the subject is identified even in Sanskrit or in Indian languages, which is Sanskrit is the basis of several Indian languages. With karne or the kritya krityascha bharata. One of the famous lines, and I think in the 15th adhyaya is Krita Krityascha Bharata. So we are identified by the work we do. I mean, the entire Varna system is based on the work we do rather than who we really are.
Yes. And no, so since you've taken that, I mean, so I come to that, but of course I don't use the spiritual word because then people get to this thing. So like the 18th chapter, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita is a brilliant way it ends. It says Swabhava, it says Swakarma, and it says Swadharma.
Wow.
It's beautiful. So it says you take up a occupation, Swakarma, which matches your Swabhava. And make it your Swadharma, make it your property, make it something which you give. It's your duty to do it. So there is a famous saying, I'm not remember, there's a famous sloka which says that don't do a swakarma which is not matching your swabhava, then it is going to be a papa. And the word papa means not sin. Sin means you're not doing what you're born to do. The language which management jargon uses, born to do, means it's like a coconut tree, the coconut trying to become some other tree. It can't.
In fact, I think the concept that comes from in Sanskrit is also in a Japanese style of management in Ikigai, where they have these Venn diagrams, and they illustrate it so beautifully.
Yeah, in fact, I'm doing the study. So I use this logic that if swabhava, swakarma. So get into an occupation or a trade which aligns with your swabhava. And swabhava means what now? That's the beauty part.
Yeah.
Swabhava is what you naturally do, what you love to do, and not what you're good at doing. Where your heart is, precisely. But unfortunately, you and me get respected for what I'm talented at. And I need not tell you, great people, child prodigies, why do they suffer later? Because they are unfortunately good at it. They don't like doing it. It's very rare to find a talent matching with a passion or even slightly crossing over. So they will be left purposeless. Imagine like Shakuntala, I wouldn't know about Shankla Devi, but someone who can just multiply numbers. Because she just, and honestly, talent is least respected. Gar ki murgi dal barabar. Something which comes to you easily, you don't value it till some other tells you, man, you're so good. So I remember all these talented people, the talent has to be discovered by others. Like I'm very good at wordplay, I can rhyme. But it took me good 20-25 years when people started saying, hey, you play with words very well. It just comes to me second hand. So I can play with words in across languages also. I mean, from one word to another, it happens. So the point is your talent is not respected by you yourself. It's respected for the outcome. So imagine you're a great cricketer. While the passion is something, you don't care the result. The very fact you allowed me to practice, I'm delighted. So now tell me, who's a great singer? Who's got a good voice or who loves to sing?
So I fully understand this philosophically, and every single religious tradition, every single spiritual tradition, every single coach will tell you, bring the Ikigai thing, which is the Venn diagram between what your innate nature is, what your likes and dislikes are, what you are happy doing, where your heart is, versus how you can contribute to society. There's an overlap. And then, of course, the talent that you have and so on. How do you, what kind of, how do you make that happen for the people who work with you? And I know for you, this is your mission in life now. This is who you are, to help people find that. What kind of tools, devices, anything you've done helps people to get there?
So we have developed an assessment on this line, which actually is an online tool where we ask sort of set of questions which help people to. So it's more like, you know, it's more like discovering what you are. So honestly, it's a very amazing. You're already that. See, you have a passion. You like it or not, you've forgotten it, but you have a passion. You have a passion. So it's only about digging deep into what you love to do. Only problem is what you love to do, but no one appreciates it or no one knows it, or it is not the fashion to be anymore. You don't do it. That's all. So as long as you're begging for appreciation from something, your passion is killed. But I give good examples. So I know this sounds philosophy, but let's take Sachin Tendulkar. If ever a list is made of the worst captains, he'll figure there.
Sad but true.
But the smartness of the guy was he knew that his talent realized here, his passion is not about leading people and influencing. So he politely stayed away from the passion. He went on to his passion, which is he loving to become a good batsman. Fortunately, he's fairly talented. But imagine you and me. I would not report to someone who was barely born when I started playing cricket. It's going to be very tough. He was reporting to Dhoni and Dhoni tells him comes one down. Now that's where the humility came in. The guy was so focused on his passion and his talent that he didn't get into this ego trip of becoming a naturally, imagine the world's greatest batsman should be a decent captain at least, right?
Yeah, but that's where societal expectations come in. That the one who has the talent, therefore, should be running the team. But running the team is really not very correlate very well. Yeah. Running the team has to do with emotional intelligence, understanding people, empathy, compassion. Not to do with four square, square drive
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
all those things.
Nothing. But again, I assure you that this guy stood. So he was clear with his pole star. He was clear with his North Star. He was clear. I'm sure people around him helped. But imagine these are guys who are in the public eye. You and me are not in the public eye. So
Every
you can
day,
imagine the
every
pressure
day.
he went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone telling him, boss, you are the captain. Just give it one more try. Give it two more try. The guy just said, nice, done. I'm done. And another great person whom I remember all these. So honestly, the great people, the role models are noticed for the wrong things. Amitabh Bachchan. You talk of all of the other things, but the greatest things I know about him is the guy became a villain when the greatest heroes never used to do the negative roles.
That's
This
true.
guy picked up negative role. Now at that time, people don't understand. I mean, there are movies where he's a Daku right from the beginning to the end.
Which
While many
movie
other
is that?
places,
Shakti?
the first one, Shakti, no, even before that, which is that movie where he started 1971.
Oh, Diwar.
Diwar se pehle wala, one more is there. Yeah.
That's true.
So that's where, so that he's a negative element in society and who's very proud that this is the only way to learn. And by that time, India had shelved a little bit of his idealism and non-violence and all was already in the backdrop. And this guy comes on and he dawns as this thing. So he does that. 20 years later, the guy's career is really rogered. He gets into business and he's got it all wrong. And he comes as a TV anchor. That time, TV was like getting into the gutter. Imagine movie star, number one hero is coming as a TV anchor.
That's true. And he literally builds a new career. I still remember when Mere Angane Mein, when you and I were in college, this guy dresses up with a sari.
Absolutely. That's right.
And it literally a marginalized community, the Hijra community and all
absolutely.
that. This guy literally, he and Mahmood did that too earlier.
Yes.
But Mahmood was more a comedy guy. And he did that in, which is that movie, Kuara Baap. But this guy, Amitabh, like the superhero, donning a sari and doing Mere Angane Mein, literally broke the stereotype of that macho hero, which he was identified with earlier. So he literally recreated a different image of him.
Yeah, precisely. Or let me say, he was true to his. So that's what I say. We are all actors in this life in a carriage called career, which is the. But you are known for the character you play. So don't take the respect you get of the character too much. So Rajesh Khanna got it wrong. Girls were falling in line with that guy on the screen.
Yeah.
That image of that hero, they loved him. Wow.
The image of the silver screen,
Yes. He took it too personally. He thought people like him. No, the actor is unknown. The character, people fell in love with that silver hero. So I keep telling, we're all a character. So if I'm general manager, I'm vice president, that's the chair talking. It's like IIT Bombay it's the character. So we are good students. That doesn't make us anything more than that.
In fact, isn't that one of the reasons when people finally either are let go or leave their jobs or somehow lose their jobs? It shatters many of us. I mean, I remember when I finally left my job 4 years ago, and I finally left all connections with being a techie, a tech entrepreneur or a technologist.
Absolutely.
In fact, even now I don't remove the word technologist from my bio. But when people ask me, I say I'm now 4 years outdated. Is it full 4 years since I was in the technology industry, right? I'm a user like you and I. There are like thousands of people who use WhatsApp or Facebook or TikTok. It doesn't make me an engineer anymore. But we hang on to these epithets, we hang on to this branch for so long till it's a joke almost. And it was almost ego shattering when I literally gave up on any more engineering or even business jobs.
Sure.
Now, no matter people ask me, Shankar, but if you don't work and you're not teaching as a professor, what are you doing? Just dance?
What are you doing?
That's HR stuff. You're not really doing real things. And it took me 4 years to really go beyond that and say, yes, this is what I'm going to do because this is what my heart is. This is where my heart is. It took me a long time. So to the people that you work with, do they go through these conflicts? Do they go through these long gestation periods?
No, in fact, honestly, I coach for people who are between 30 to 45. That's the age group I coach. And I'm seeing increasingly more people can afford to retire early. Retire means if he just goes by financial norms, and if someone is there who knows how to invest money, if he goes by his personal targets, there's no business he has to work after 40, 45 because he's got a good corpus and he has to learn a little bit of stock market and a little bit. He can earn, the money will work for him after that. Unless he has some very esoteric goals that he wants to own some big mansion somewhere. But most people don't have. But then the point is he doesn't even consider this, because what you just now said is, you and me at least realize that we have been a slave of the designations and for them, they only know reputation. So he was a good student who became a good CA, who became a good professional. Now he's a good vice president. And I mean, unfortunately, even your family identifies, right from your better half, right from your spouse, they identify with who you are at office.
Very true. In fact, to give you a very stupid but real example, in Silicon Valley, where I lived more than half my life, San Francisco Bay Area, it's very common for people to handshake and say hardware or software. Shankar
oh my God.
Hardware guy. And my wife used to say, well, there's something called biotech. Well, like, really? But it's a slow industry. And right now, guess what? Guess who's getting all the accolades right now? We need a medicine for Corona. Make it fast. Like, sorry, it'll still take you 1 year. Even the president has to slow down. And the prime minister has to slow down. It will take 1 year, 2 years to make it.
Yeah, obviously.
But
which itself is a tight
interesting is the myopia with which we operate.
Yeah.
The myopia of simple terms. You know, are you with this leftist or a rightist? Are you with a this or a that? And then the label catches on so much that we lose perspective of being human.
Yeah, no. And the point is, there's a sad part that we are sentient creatures who have also got awareness. So we know, we package our products. So when we sell a product, we package it. But we can't be a slave of our own packaging it. I mean, I should know what I am inside out. I should know what's inside. You can please flash your hardware, software, say you are from the Bay Area. But if you think you are only that, that's tragic. It's like, I have a reputation. The reputation cannot have me. So my visiting card is holding me. I don't hold a visiting card. So the day I left Mahindra and I didn't have a card, I was almost feeling like agenda-less and my origins were shaken. Because you have to introduce yourself as Narayan Menon, like what you and me talk with each other. It was a very earth-shattering, you know, it's humiliating. Now when you go to a big office, they make you sit outside. Because you don't have a big card.
That's true.
You can't just walk in
I
unless
still
you
don't even have proper, what do you call it, virus software because it costs money, right? In my system, even to have virus software costs actual dollars.
Sure. Yeah, so, you know, in the Joe Harry window, you got that identity, reputation, you got a facade, and you got real potential which is left to be tapped, which none of us knows, because that's one quadrant which neither you know nor I know. So unfortunately, we become a slave of that quadrant which others know who I am, the reputation part. It's fine. Please flash your reputation, but you can't be only that. So just as products are sold, you should know you're also a product, but you can't be only your degree. You can't be only your experience. You can't be only your things which you own. What else can you bring to the table is what's important to know. And that's where self-identity. And that's where I gave the example, like, you know, Tendulkar is a very good example where, being the youngest batsman, he realized that he is not privileged therefore to become captain. Just because Amitabh Bachchan was the long-lasting hero who did multiple roles like genres, like even humor. He's probably one of the first heroes to do slapstick comedy. But he knew that just because he could do all honors, he will continuously be the best. In fact, according to me, the low shelf life carriers like sportsmen, these are people who know that they are running a risk.
True.
Well, unfortunately, you and me. So the shelf life, even, I mean, wrong example, but an air hostess. These are all people who know beyond 40, they are not going to survive. Even if they may be the world's greatest.
Because of the
they already
biases
have a career
in society
in mind.
And the requirements of the job, both.
Yeah. So I give examples of these people. There are a lot of people. Imagine someone working like Dhoni and all these people. You may say they have earned money, but there was no guarantee when they started playing, they earned so much money. So he would have anyway played what he did. Now that he has earned money, you're able to say that. The point is, these are people who take the risk. They go with their passion, but they know who they are. Even Shah Rukh Khan, I think, is known more as a person who's come from a middle-class background but he has learned the financial skills. He knows how to take care of himself. So now he's actually doing movies as a hobby. He's no more living off it. He's King Khan in that sense. People don't realize. So he's the first guy. Imagine a #1 actor being a host of a program.
True.
I think he's the first hero who's hosting the programs.
So I know this is such an important topic, and Narayan, I know that it's not something you can convey in a matter of minutes. If people want to get in touch with you, and I've known you for so long, I can tell you one thing. Anybody listening, I can say that Narayan is not into this for business. This is his life. This is his passion. Just like for me, I do free leadership trainings and dance trainings because it's so much fun, and it gives meaning to my day-to-day life. So my question is, how best can people stay in touch with you if they want to find you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Sure. So one is the LinkedIn. They can get onto a LinkedIn and my webpage also, which is Vedanta. So my company is called Vedanta Consulting, Vedanta Ejulor.
So we'll share these links. Okay. Along with this video, I'll share the links.
Sure. And second is we have got an online assessment, which just gives you an insight of the career part. So, it tells you where you want to go. Where are you today? So it's like more a provocative thing. It just gives you a report which says what you're, and then we can build on it. So it's more like an introduction to yourself.
Is that tool, app already available? Can people use it as of now?
Yeah. It's already, we have a laptop version. I had to come down to the mobile, but we've got a laptop version, which is pretty useful. It takes about 45 minutes to 50 minutes to fill out. It's not a psychometric assessment, but it's more like the person, the human being is discovered. And we shed all the professional part of it.
In fact, I'm going to take it myself because I mostly use psychometric assessments. The Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, and the Big Five, and so on.
Big Five, So that's more finding out how good a professional you are, which is needed. I'm not saying that's not needed, but that's more of the professional.
Yeah.
So that's how good a professional you are. Yes. I mean, I always like the Bollywood example, so we are all actors. We are all actors in the stage called life. But finally, I'm playing a role. So I always ask this thing, when they are appraised at the end of the year, who is getting appraised? The actor or the character he played?
That's a very good point. In fact, we often go during the assessment period with a long list of accomplishments. And like, lo and behold, people are shocked, but you're not a great team player, or you're setting people in the team, or we're not sure that you have management capability, and so on. And and typically for for somebody who's an artist or a scientist, it comes as a rude shock.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised, many of my coachings, even with very senior level people like CEOs, they become so sad. I said, at home, don't you think your son will be fighting with your wife, saying you're a great father, while the wife is very clear you're a lousy husband? Because they're talking of two different roles.
Two different roles.
So you could be a great husband, simultaneously being a lousy father, or vice versa. At the same time, the human being is the same bloke. So now tell me, what is the appraisal? The appraisal is not about the human being. The appraisal is about the role of the father you played. If she believes you're a great father, it doesn't guarantee you're a great human being. You could be just by mistake a great father. Or you're doing unknowingly the right things to be coming across as a good father.
Very interesting. I never thought about these things.
So that's a carriage. So, the very word, don't we say roles and responsibilities, the role you're playing. True. The word is used as that, the role you're playing. You're not being a good husband at home. That means they don't want you to husband outside. You're not being a good husband at home. It's very, very clear.
It's funny because these words are used so interchangeably, roles and responsibilities. To me, it's kind of meshed into one. And now it's becoming clearer. The role you're playing and the responsibility you've taken. And they may not be related sometimes. Or I may be a responsible person, but I may still not be playing the right role. Sachin Tendulkar was a responsible person, and he realized that he can play the role of a cricket player fantastic, but not the role of the captain. And that takes understanding and discernment and self-awareness.
One. And second is, imagine in a football team, you are playing a role of a defender. You're never going to score a goal in your life. True. No, isn't that so ridiculous? I mean, I think the guy got into the wrong job. Can I say that?
If that's the goal.
If that's the goal.
The ambition.
Yeah. So imagine. So I always wonder, I mean, who's the defender? Unfortunately, in business life, we don't have a defender. Everybody is a forward.
It's like the person who keeps praying, "Arey, I want to win the lottery. Please, please, God, let me win the lottery." And then the God comes and says, "When are you going to buy the ticket?" so many times we are playing a role. It happened to me a lot when I was in engineering, like you early on. I used to resent the marketing people because they had the visible PR. They were the ones on television and media in those days, newspapers and television, and today it's social media. Then when I became the social media picture for Synopsis, the last company I worked for, literally they put my photo on the Twitter. It's like the Akriti. And the people are like, "Shankar, but you don't do a dang thing, and you are there on Twitter every day."
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Would you like to do my role? No, it's yucky. I don't want to face the camera. I don't want to be tweeting every day. That's useless stuff. The image, the person in front of the screen versus the person in the back office.
And so, Shankar, that comes to the point. The passion comes in. So when they use the word natural actor, I always find that a great oxymoron. I mean, what are you saying? You act well or you're natural? So, that... but when they say natural actor, means you just love doing the acting, that you come out across as real. So imagine you naturally being a good CEO. You don't mix up. You're a great.
So let me ask you one last question, because whatever you're saying right now, all this is totally related to what many people are going through during this pandemic. Is there anything else that you may have missed out that you want to tell people? How best can they utilize the time that they have? Some of us are quarantined, some of us are in lockdown, some of us are upset that we cannot travel, including me. So how can we best use the time that we have?
In fact, honestly, I've been doing something. So it's a God-given opportunity, because the nature is silent. There's less noise. Your mind is really getting tested. So this is a zero time which all of us have been yearning for. But then, unfortunately, we got lost in the future. So according to me, just be ready to be vulnerable. So in case, God forbid, you are going to be one of the victims, these are the last days. if you have to really use that language. I mean, if we really want to be the doomsday prediction. So there's no problem. If this is the last days, let's freak out. And if they are not, let's freak out even more. That's one way of doing it. But I know a lot of people who keep this navel gazing, how many dead. They're almost playing a T20 match. How many dead?
Yes.
But the point is, I can rattle out the numbers. It's very amazing. 7 in 1,000 people die every year in this country. 1 in 10,000 have died. Every single year, 7 in 1,000 die. 7 in 1,000 Indians die every year, which is a big number, because we've got 133 crores.
About more than well over a crore will die every single year. Because that's the only way the population will stay normal.
And by the way, we lose about 1.5 lakh people only on the road accidents, all of which have been saved. So honestly, death rate as of now is 1 in 10,000 in the last 4 months. The number of corona victims. So we're talking of 0.1. So 7 is becoming 7.1. If I have to assume all these are additional deaths, you know very well 50% of the deaths are comorbid deaths. So not to talk in numbers, we are preponing some people's death at the most.
Which is sad,
which is sad. But you don't know. I mean, I can always argue that his tragic days or the last days were going to be very bad. He's had more peaceful deaths. I mean, I can always argue both ways. But the point is how you look at life is a great example. So I can see, I still go for playing my badminton and all that. So there are 3 types of people. One is who are dying every day and soundly finding that they didn't die. So they are like, kuch log hai na, maut se pehle mar rahe hai. So there are a lot of people who are dying before death.
So what can we do to understand this and come out of this, not being alive as long as we are still in this flesh and blood? How can we, is there something, or I know I'm not looking for a formula because there's none, but
there's none.
Even understanding this, that postponing our life is not helpful.
Precisely.
Postponing our life to after COVID, I'm going to do this. We don't even know how long this.
We don't even know. That's right. Yes.
And there are
So,
foolhardy people who have tried just going out there, and then the next day they're in the
yeah,
hospital,
yeah,
and I've seen that happen
absolutely.
right in front of my
Yeah.
eyes.
Yes, yes. And there are a lot of people who have been freaking out and nothing has happened. So, there's somewhere, I don't know, I have crossed that thing, but somewhere people must accept that the thing called death is not in your hands, just as life is not in your hands. I mean, you and me, we had no control on when we were born. And as they say, and I always come out with this quote, so fatherhood is a matter of opinion, motherhood is a matter of fact. So there are a lot of things that are very confusing about those things. We don't think of all those things. Like, that's beyond my control. I am born fine. Same way, ending is also not in your control. Now, why are we worrying on something which is not in your control, and why are we not doing anything about what is in your control?
Yeah, yeah.
It's exactly the opposite. So, dream of the next day as if you've got life to live, or work out today as if this is the last day. It doesn't matter. But the point is, as you rightly said, the chinks in the armor are very clearly exposed today. The people, mortality is staring at them, and people who are, were not worried so much. There are a lot of people who are very unsure about their jobs and all those things. So I'm getting a lot of calls for this career coaching. So I keep on saying this is a right time. Sit and think why you want to do what you want to do. People who are not really mortally frightened. People are not really worried about their debts, but people are really worried now. More people are worried about the uncertain future. Because
Very
they can
true.
see the gig economy is here probably. No more you'll have visiting cards. From employee codes, most of us can become vendor codes. We may be supplier of services. I know a couple of people who are part-time CEOs amongst 3 startups. And that's a new word being used. Obviously, what it means is he is sort of mentoring them. But it's there. The terminology is around already.
And so much is changing. And if we put all our ego on the role we have played past pre-COVID, it can be it can be an earth-shattering experience, not
Shall we
knowing whether that
experience?
role will exist after the or during or
Precisely.
after.
Yeah, and the work from home has become the biggest joke. Imagine people were earning for working from home, and now they are pained because that reputation, that same thing what I'm talking of, the father is sitting there, the husband is sitting there, the professional is also sitting there, and that man is juggling between these 3 roles. He doesn't know what to be. He wants to be a good father to the child who's sitting in the next room. He can't be because he's on a call. So
And the
it's becoming a
expectation is
pot
that
boiler.
you'll take the phone call for the next 12 hours.
Precisely. And that call can come in any time. So it's there on the face now. It's in your face. So I have a lot of this condo where I'm staying. We've got 250 families, out of which at least I think 50 of them are carrier couples. So the mom is on the phone, the dad is on the phone, and serious work going on, and the kid is also at home on the phone or on the laptop on his online session. So it's not a great sight. You need to rejig the whole thing, but they are frightened at the fact that, is this a permanent scene or is this going to be more often?
How long?
So yes, yeah. So this is alternate control delete. I think a lot of things are going to start afresh. The system is going to shut down, but I think it's all, your self-awareness, which is what I've been saying all along. When I said self-awareness is what is now the key. We better know ourselves more, or we at least know that we don't know ourselves. It's a lot of time to go. Awareness is what is needed. Today, we know a lot of the external world. And we can Google it. I can't Google myself, right? Can I Google about myself?
We should try that. We should Google who am I and see what
Who am I? That's about it. Precisely. That's about it.
I'm
So
going
it's
to do
fun.
that
It's
after
fun.
this.
Yeah. Google inward.
Google
But yeah, it's
inwards.
fun. When people find me, I said, boss, it's a like the journey from 1 to infinity and the journey from 1 to 0 within is equally far.
That's true.
Is equally far. It's
And I
equally far.
Yeah, I remember that from, was it numerical analysis or complex analysis?
Yeah.
The journey from 1 to infinity and the journey from 1 to 0 are really, it's infinite. The number
It's
of
infinite.
points.
Number of points. Yeah. And the
Shunyata.
sad part is both cannot be shown. I can't show you 0 apple, right? So both are concepts.
That's true. And that's why it took so long for people to discover the number 0.
Precisely.
Long.
Right. So
Both
long. So
0
that's
and
what.
infinity were rather like the beginning of so-called modern mathematics because they were
Precisely.
abstract.
Abstract. So, but the point is, this all people understand. We got a lot of these intelligent people. The moment you say, okay, buddy, this is what we're talking of, go within, the guy suddenly is lost. I said, Google is 10 raised to 100. There is 10 raised to minus 100 also. You still not reach zero. You're getting there. You're getting there. But it's never absolutely
That's true.
zero.
Going inwards is an infinitely long process.
Infinitely long, as long as. So, but then the point is, so that's where the journey is, that we went all the way outside. You're excited. So some people stop at history. Some people stop at astronomy. Doesn't matter. These are all various words of learning. But there's equal depth of knowledge within. And that's more interesting. So
in fact, the thing that's bothering humanity right now is that little tiny coronavirus.
Absolutely. Simple. And I've been reading books, but honestly, I heard the medical part also. This plays out in the medical field today.
It does.
There's a book. Yeah. There's a book called Biology of Belief by Lipton, Dr. Lipton. It's a fabulous book.
And those who are interested in understanding the role of microbes in our life, there's a whole field called microbiomics. It's not that every microbe out there is out there to get us. Doodh ka dahi or milk becoming yogurt or curd also requires microbes without which we will not survive.
Simple.
The sugars that we eat, complex carbohydrates becoming glucose and being digested in the body also requires 90% of the DNA in our body is microbial.
And so we are actually a community of cells, precisely, with a lot of bacteria and viruses.
Yeah,
it's an organization.
90% microbes and only 10% Shankar DNA.
Yeah. So if we can talk in the language of the computer, when you keep zooming in, if you imagine if I'm able to go up to 10 raised to minus 10, you'll actually see holes in my body and you can see air going through it. The pixel, you'll almost come to pixel
inwards, as you said.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So the beauty is, people don't realize that Corona is also that only, period. That's it. It's just in your head.
Yeah, there's so much more to discuss and so little time. But if people are more interested in these topics, we will continue in another session. And I'm so grateful for those who have stayed on until now. And Narayan, I'm so grateful that you joined us. I had no idea about your interest in Sanskrit and languages. That was yet another point where we converge. Besides understanding human nature, and besides understanding who am I, why am I here, and what is my purpose. So many more points to connect on. So those of you who are here, I want to just say thank you and have a wonderful day, have a wonderful life. As long as you're alive, let's respect that we are still alive.
Yes. I think that's a point, Shankar. Yes. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for me and as much a privilege to having this chat with you. I'm looking forward to connecting up very quickly. And I'd like to give an open invite to all those people who's watching this, that I'm more than willing to be of use, because I believe this is not about becoming someone. This is just discovering what you already are.
And all the links that will best help you to reach Narayan or his work, we will share that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Stay in touch. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.